of unleavened bread, and we continue to pray and worship our God through eating unleavened bread. And it says you must eat unleavened bread. Leaven is a symbol, and by us not taking leaven for 7 days as God has commanded in Leviticus 23, he is preaching that we are not supposed to sin. We will ultimately live a life without sin. So it is our wishes and wishes for everyone to stay without sinning. So we have this feast, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which precedes after the Lord's Supper, which is incorporated into the Passover feast. And I hope everyone have finished your feet washing and taken your daily this morning, and also continue to take your daily at the 9th hour. And this is what we do. And if you have got somebody with you, wash each other's feet. Why do we wash each other's feet? It shows a sign that we should be humble. Consider the other men better than you. So this is the humility service that God left us. When they were up in that house, when they were keeping Passover, they were washing each other's feet. And the washing of each other's feet, God chose the dirtiest part of the body, which is the feet. And imagine if someone was walking about where there is dust, you have to wash the feet as a sign of humility, as a sign that you treat other brethren much better than you. And this is a humility service which God has commanded us to continue. And we do that in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Take our bread and wine after washing each other's feet. Take Lord's Supper after washing each other's feet. We do that every time we have a convocation. On the Sabbath, wash each other's feet. 3rd hour, 9th hour. And also on the Feast of Tabernacles, wash each other's feet morning and evening. Take the daily. And also on all other feasts, the new moon, the Day of Atonement, it's the same thing. That will make you humble. That will make you consider the other person better than you. And it is a humbling service which God has given us to continue. We must continue until Christ comes. And in the middle of the week, you can take the daily without washing each other's feet, because you've got no one. You have got no one to humble yourself to. But when you convocate, this is the emblem that God wants us to do. And in the middle of the week, and some go to work, some go to school. That's why our workplaces have prayer rooms, for us to continue taking the daily and praying at the appointed times. So those who walk in the faith that Christ introduced to us will enjoy the presence of God in our daily life. So we continue taking the daily. So today I chose a subject for us to ponder into, which is a prophecy of Revelation chapter 10. And we all should understand why we were given that prophecy, because it is particularly for the last days. So let's go and start from chapter 10, verse 1. Revelation chapter 10, verse 1. Yeah.
And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven.
Right. We have been studying in the previous weeks, and we saw that this mighty angel which comes to join the 3rd angel. We remember when you started in early writing, page 277, we saw that this mighty angel is Christ himself, and coming at our time to join the other 3 angels' messages. Now, John is saying, I saw a mighty angel come down. And we want to describe this angel according to Revelation chapter 10. What is this angel? Yeah?
And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven,
right,
clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head.
Right.
And his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire.
Right. So we see how terrible this angel is. What is this angel holding? Yeah?
And he had in his hand a little book open,
Right. So this angel has got an open book. It's the only book in the Bible we saw it in chapter 10 of Daniel, in Daniel chapter 12, a book which was open. Let's go back to Daniel chapter 12 and go to verse 4.
But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book,
right?
even to the time of the end.
You see, we have only one chapter in the prophecies of Daniel. When we read Daniel is a prophecy, Revelation is a revealing what Daniel was prophesying. So that book is the only book. Read it.
But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words,
right,
and seal the book,
right,
even to the end of the time.
Right. It has been promised that this book, which was told Daniel to shut, was to be opened in the time of the end. Yeah? Shut it up until the time of the end, until our time. That's where we see this book. And what else?
Then I, Daniel, looked,
right,
and behold, there stood other two,
right,
the one on this side of the bank.
Shut up this book until the time of the end. Now, verse 10, what does it say? On Daniel chapter 12.
Many shall be purified.
Right. When this book is opened, what we will see is purification. Many shall be purified and
made white.
And made white. Yeah?
And tried.
And tried.
But the wicked shall do wickedly.
How are they tried? How are they tried? We saw when we are going to receive the 3 seals, it's a lot of spiritual persecution. This is how people are going to be tried. Why? People are going to be separated in the same house. Some will receive, some won't receive. And there shall be a time of trouble, spiritual trouble, persecution among his families, among his churches, among his, because some will be receiving the seal and some won't. So many shall be tried. So this is a warning for us. When you receive this message, there is a lot of trials, and people are scared of trials. They will rather forsake God and appease their brethren. But what we see is that Isaiah 2 has told us, verse 22 says, "Cease ye from men whose breath is in the what? Nostrils." So do not, when this book is opened, it's going to purify us, one, and many shall be tried. It's going to give us a seal. But when this book is open, when we are understanding the prophecies, there is a lot of persecution. There is a lot of spiritual persecution amongst ourselves. But we know the 4 winds are held. These 4 winds held that we don't have the physical persecution, but we only have the spiritual persecution, which is the trials that Daniel is seeing. And what? Many shall be purified, yeah?
And made white.
And made white.
And tried.
And tried.
But the wicked shall do wickedly.
The wicked shall do wickedly. It's something that will be happening in the last days. The wicked shall do wickedly, and what?
And none of the wicked shall understand.
None of the wicked shall understand the prophecies. Why? God will not disclose these prophecies. You might read the book of Daniel and finish it all, but you never understand. The book of Revelation, you will never understand until you take off that point that you are practicing against God. That's why Daniel says, the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of them shall understand. It's something. If you say you don't understand it, there's something that you have to take off. If you don't want to take it off, none of the wicked shall understand. So it's for us to make sure we are purified. We are walking with God so that He reveals, He opens up this book. So this book was promised that it will be opened in the last days. We have seen it. So we see that book in Revelation 10. Go to Revelation 10. That Revelation 10 says, The wise, actually in Revelation, in Daniel chapter 12, when we're reading from verse 10, it says the wicked shall not understand, but the wise shall understand. They will shine like stars. They will just open the book and understand what God says. Why did God write it in prophecies? So that the wise should understand, but the wicked will never understand. So it is up to you. That's why in chapter 1 of Revelation, the book of Revelation chapter 1, there is a blessing given to those who read this book. God, blessed are those who read this book, that verse, right? In Revelation chapter 1. Go verse.
Blessed is he.
What verse is that?
Verse 3.
Verse 3, yeah.
Blessed is he that readeth,
Right.
and they that hear the words of this prophecy,
Right.
and keep those things which are written therein,
Right.
for the time is at hand.
So it's a blessing given to those who read the book of Revelation. I can see people when they go on live or go in, they are not even choosing any prophecies. I don't know why. But there's a blessing. There's a blessing in these books that when you read and understand it, you will be blessed. What God is meaning is that those who are wise will understand it. And those who are not, they won't understand, because it says the wicked shall not understand. And blessed are those who will understand, who will read this book and understand the words. And some don't read, they will listen. Some don't read, they will watch this book and enjoy. If you find this book being unfolded to you and you are following and enjoying, it means you are on the blessed side. Those who will enjoy this book are on the blessed side. What does blessed mean? Their names are written in the book of life, because the names were written from the foundation of the world. Before this world was created, the names were there. Why? Because God foresaw you enjoying this book in the last days. So this is what he wrote before you were created, because he saw you making your choice to his side. He wrote you. So this is one sign in the last day when the book is opened. So we see in Revelation chapter 10, the book is being opened. Right? Who comes to open the book? It's Christ himself. He is holding a mighty angel, holding an open book. He brings it now. That's why he commanded Daniel, seal it up, because it was not yet time. Imagine, Daniel was living about 538 AD there, BC, before Christ came to die on the cross. If he had unfolded what will happen in our time, would Daniel understand? Daniel wouldn't understand. That's why here he was told, shut it up. It had nothing to do with him. Shut it up. But those who have lived in our time, we have seen even the history, gone past dark ages, gone past our time. Now in our time, when we're expecting the coming of Christ, are the only ones who will be given a blessedness of reading these books and understanding. And this is what we are reading from Revelation chapter 10. So you go with it, Revelation chapter 10. This angel had an open book, and what?
And he had in his hand a little book open.
Right.
And he set his right foot upon the sea, and his left foot on the earth.
Right.
And cried with a loud voice, as when a lion roareth. And when he had cried, 7 thunders uttered their voices.
You see, this is the interesting point. His leg, one of the leg was by the sea, isn't it? And the other leg on the earth. Meaning complete authority. Authority over the land and sea, over everyone in the globe, earth. Yeah? How does he assume this authority? By creation, he's the one who created. By also redemption, he's the one who died on the cross. He's the only one. That's why no angel qualifies to be in his position, because he did that. He redeemed us. He created us. That's why when he steps on the earth and the sea, he is paramount, authoritative to say, this is his. He created. It's the Son of God who created. It's the Son of God who redeemed, who is going to redeem us. So he's got complete authority over everything that is on this globe, on the universe, on everything. So now he has come. It is when it is open, we know it's now the time of the end, which Daniel prophesied. It is our time that this book is opened. And when this book was opened, what happened? Right?
And when he had cried,
Mm-hmm.
7 thunders uttered their voices.
Right. My lesson today is on the 7 thunders, and we saw the person who is being told, take this book and read it on.
And when the 7 thunders had uttered their voices,
Right.
I was about to write, and I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, seal up those things
Right.
which the 7 thunders uttered,
Right.
and write them not.
Are you aware? John heard what was written there. Heard what the thunders uttered. And John in AD 96 was about to write, and God said, no. If we knew that truth from AD 96 until now, it was not going to be a test. So that truth comes to us as a test. We shall not see Christ before understanding that truth that John was told not to write. Right? And what happened? Go.
And the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth
Right?
lifted up his hand to
Yeah.
heaven,
Mm-hmm.
and swear by him that liveth forever and ever,
Right?
who created heaven and the things that therein are,
Right?
and the earth
Right?
and the things that therein are,
Right?
and the sea and the things which are therein, that there should be time no longer.
Time, no more delay. We were talking about the prophecies of the delay. We saw in Matthew chapter 25 of the 10 virgins that there was a delay. When they slept, there was a delay. And they all slept and slumbered. Now we are being told there's no delay again here. And we saw our delay was from 1890, when we rejected the 1888 message. There was another 40 years of wilderness, which brought us up to 1930. There is no delay now. Why? Why would you sanction someone to start in 1930? Will be sanctioned to preach the message of the angel coming from the east, or the seal of New Jerusalem, which is the other 2 messages which have been left from the first message. Sister White preached about the first seal, God, but we still have other. There was a delay. So now this angel comes and said, no more delay. No more delay. But when we heard the 7 thunders, the 7 thunders is actually what John heard, were the messages which were to come until the last day. And he was mentioning even the messages and the messengers. So this is what John wanted to write. But he was told not to write, because this would remain private until those who are going to be blessed by reading these chapters, or those who are going to be prepared for translation, will hear. And those who do not want to hear about it, this is going to try them. This is going to test them. This message is going to test them. Right, let's go to the next verse. We'll come back to the thunders. Let's just run down the Revelation 10, finish it, and then come down to the 7 thunders. That's our lesson, yeah?
But in the days of the voice of the 7th angel,
Right?
when he shall begin to sound,
Right?
the mystery of God should be finished.
Right. We saw the 7th trumpet, and we said we were in the 6th trumpet. When the 7th trumpet utters, we saw there is nothing that happens like witnessing or what, except it's the ushering in of the kingdom. If we go to Revelation chapter 7 and we see, Revelation in chapter 12, I think, chapter 11, where it's talking about the 7th trumpet.
And they heard a great voice. Is it verse 12?
Right. It's not that. Let me give it for you.
Okay, verse 15.
Verse 15, yeah.
And the seventh angel sounded.
Right.
And there were great voices in heaven.
Do you see
saying,
what happened when the seventh trumpet sounded? You will see. My point is that it is the ushering in of the kingdom. There is no more witnessing. Everybody has been sealed. Let's hear that, right?
And the seventh angel sounded,
Mm-hmm.
and there were great voices in heaven saying, The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord.
Thy kingdom of this world is become thy kingdom of the Lord. You see, that's where the kingdoms of this world become under the kingdom of God. When the seventh angel shall utter his voice, automatically the kingdom of God is established. And what happened?
And of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever.
That's the seventh trumpet. So we are seeing when the voice of the seventh trumpet utters, that mystery, which is what? Which is for us to be like Christ, God in us, the hope of glory. This is the mystery that will be ended by the sounding of the seventh trumpet. And this is the mystery that the angels are waiting to see a man, a woman looking like Christ. And this is where we have finished sealing and accepting all the messages that have been brought to us as a church to be sealed and look like Christ. That the voice of the seventh trumpet is only introducing the kingdom. So let's go back to Revelation chapter 10. Revelation chapter 10 and what there?
But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel,
Right?
when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished,
Right?
as he hath declared to his servants the prophets.
Right. So the mystery is finished as he had declared to the servants. What did he declare? Is that Christ will be in us. We will be looking like Christ. Not facially, but our characters will be like Christ's characters. This mystery, the angels have been waiting for this mystery. If you go to 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 26, let's see what that verse says.
Chapter 1 verse 26.
26, yeah.
For ye see your calling.
Right? Okay, I will give you the verse. Just run down that one.
For ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called.
Do you see? Who are being called to be like Christ? Not many mighty men, not many, but who is being called? Yeah?
But God hath chosen the foolish things of
Yes.
the world to confound the
How
wise.
many people want to view what God is talking about? As it was when Christ came, only the fishermen, the fishmongers, only the foolish people who you can see and say, oh, what are these people doing? What do you think? Not these mighty people you are expecting to be representing God. No, it's only those people who look a bit foolish, but who God is choosing. And He has chosen the foolish. And when we are saying we're in the week of unleavened bread, it sounds very foolish, isn't it? To those, some have no time for that. They don't have time because it's just stupid to them. It's a foolish thing to waste time doing that. But God has chosen those foolish things to be there, powerful. And in this time, when we have so much perplexity, people have only one answer. I've seen even on Facebook. I've seen everywhere. Everybody has one answer to these problems that we are having. Pestilence. And the only answer is God will control everything. It's God. When people, even the wise men, even those we think will have an answer, they don't have an answer. The only answer comes from God. It looks foolish when things are right, but when things are wrong, it's the only person who will come in. When people go, even in hospital, they are not allowed, the relatives are not allowed. There is only one person who is allowed. It's God. God is there by your side. When you are ill, when you are in trouble, when you are everything, when people can't come, it's only God who will understand. It's only God who will come and soothe you, will come and heal you. He will inspire people to give you what is right. It's God. When we think he is foolish, when everything is fine, but go into problems, you will find how he takes over all the reins into his hand, and is the only person who is there with you until you are in the grave. He is the only person who goes with you into the grave, and he waits for you until his time. When he comes, he will take you from the grave where he left you. He's the only person that is. He appears foolish. Nobody wants to worship him. Most people don't want to worship him. He looks as if he's just a waster of people's time. But let me tell you one thing. Go into trouble, become ill, you will call upon him. He'll come and answer. Yeah? Even when you die, you sleep in his arms. And he'll even wait for you in the grave. When he comes to establish the kingdom, he will make you wake up from where you left. He says, when you sleep, when you die, you know nothing. You know nothing. All that you can remember when you wake up is what you last said before you died. Yeah? So this is exactly what happens when people die. We will have a time. So many people do not know about the state of the dead. People, they know you, we are talking and everything, but when you die, nobody knows what happens there. Some people have a lot of funny things and things happening when you are dead. But the Bible has it all. It shows us what happens when you are dead, so that people don't waste time imagining other things, weird things happening to you when you are dead. So sometime I will give you a message when I get time on one of these fine days, and to give you the state of the dead, so that when we see somebody who has died, we know exactly what is happening to that person, so that we don't waste time brooding and getting ourselves so affected so much, so terribly, taken off the way when things are, because of your ignorance, because of our ignorance of what God says happens when we are dead. It should be coming from the Bible. It's spiritual, it's biblical, so we should know that, so that we stay calm. We take things as they come and accept them and give glory to God. So here we are talking of Christ coming with the book and opening it up to John. The first person to open this book is William Miller. William Miller read from Daniel chapter 8, verse 13 to 14, said, unto 2,300 days shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And he saw that this book was opened to William Miller. Yeah, he was a leader of the first day Advent movement. That's William Miller. Was a teacher to the prophet Sister White, who kept on going to his lessons, and yet she was being, selected to be the next prophet after William Miller died. So William Miller is the one who was reading the book of Daniel. It was opened to him, and he was warned that that book was going to be nice to read, sweet as honey. And he was warned that after it was sweet in the mouth, it was going to be bitter in the abdomen. And we saw the bitterness which occurred when he prescribed that Christ was going to come on earth. The timing of the 2,300 days was correct, coming up to 1844. But the event, he said it was the coming of Christ on earth, and yet it was the coming of Christ into the Holy of Holies, coming from the third heavens, where we have the universal throne of God, where Christ went when he ascended. He went to the universal throne where he was on the right side. But when he comes to the first heaven, or to the throne where he is seen in front of the Ancient of Days, he's not on the right side. He is in front of Christ, meaning this is a different throne from the throne in paradise where he was in his right hand. We saw that from Acts chapter 7. when Peter was stoned and he upheld and beholded Christ was on the right hand. And that is the throne where Christ went when he ascended. But we see in 1844, he comes to the first heavens where he is placed in front of the Ancient of Days, thrones which were set only for one globe, which is the earth. Because we have 12 planets, the only planet which erred, which sinned, is the planet Earth. So Christ comes as a bleeding lamb in front of the throne in 1844, which was prescribed by William Miller, thinking Christ was going to come on earth. But his sister White was given the revelation that Christ instead went into the Holy of Holies in 1844. And thereby she was now proclaiming the third angel's message after William Miller. So we are seeing the one was inspired to open the book of Daniel, which had been sealed, is William Miller. And now we see as Sister White was given the revelation as well. So we are going to study also her writings to see what she says about these seven thunders which John was shown. Now let's go to early writings, the book of early writing, page 259, which starts when she says, after the seven thunders. Yeah?
After the seven thunders uttered their voices,
Right?
the injunction comes to John as to Daniel,
Right?
in regard to the little book.
Right. So the injunction comes to John the Revelator. As it came to Daniel, we saw in Daniel chapter 12, when he was told to seal up the book. Now that very injunction comes now to to John, to open the book. The book is now open. Let's see. Yeah. What did it say to Daniel?
Okay. These relate to the future events. Future from the time the Lord's servant commented upon them.
Right. So when he says seal up start when he says seal up those things. Yeah. Okay, start after the seven thunders, right?
After the seven thunders uttered their voices, the injunction comes to John as to Daniel in regard to the little book.
Right.
Seal up those things which the seven thunders uttered.
Right.
These relate to the future events.
Right.
Future from the time the Lord's servants commented upon them,
Right.
which will be disclosed.
This is a bracket added. Future from the time the Lord's servant commented upon them. The Lord's servant commented upon these seven thunders, right? So it's seal up to John. Seal. We saw Daniel being called and saying, seal the book. And then John also heard the book, heard the thunders uttering. And he was also told, seal this book. Seal what you heard. Right. And
then it says, then future Daniel's prophecies have their proper place in the first, second, and third angels' messages.
Right.
To be given to the world, bracket, I was again brought down through these messages to the first, second, and third angels' message.
Right.
After the church learns them, men will learn of the reconciliation for iniquity and the everlasting righteousness by which the Messiah have brought in through his sacrifice.
Right. So we see men will learn reconciliation for iniquity and of the everlasting righteousness by which the Messiah has brought in through his sacrifice. And what happened? The cross?
The cross of Calvary and the presence of the Trinity there is the great center.
Right? So the cross, when the messages are opened, the first, second, third angel's message, the cross on Calvary
and the presence of the Trinity there.
Right, in the brackets, and which is the presence of the Trinity there in the cross of Calvary, is the great center what is it? The cross of Calvary is the great center, and what? This truth of the Calvary, right?
Acted upon will make Christ's sacrifice effectual.
Now, when the messages which were uttered will make the cross of Calvary the center, and this truth acted upon will make Christ's sacrifice effectual. So meaning we should, when these thunders are heard and understood, they are focused on the cross of Calvary. And when we understand the cross of Calvary, then that will make the sacrifice of Christ effectual. So it means there is a lot in these 7 thunders, right? This is what, right?
This is what,
right?
Gabriel revealed to Daniel in answer to fervent prayer.
Right?
It was of this that Moses and Elijah and Christ talked at his transfiguration.
We are being told we saw Moses and Elijah and Christ in together on the transfiguration. They were saying something, and the disciples didn't know what they were saying. But we are being told here by Sister White, this truth of Calvary was being communicated by these 3 people: Christ, Moses, Elijah on transfiguration. They were talking about this very thing we are finding in the 7 thunders. And this is the truth they were communicating, which was centering, which was had a center of the death of Christ on Calvary. And then what had?
By his humiliation on the cross.
They were telling Christ about his humiliation on the cross, yeah?
He was to bring everlasting deliverance
right.
to all who would walk after him,
right?
Giving positive evidence that they are separated from the world.
Right. This we are reading from letter 201 from 1899. If you have to browse letter 201 and 1899. The books, right? The books of Daniel.
The books of Daniel and
right.
Revelation
right.
are one.
They are one. When we read the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation, we are reading about a continuation of one book, right? And
one is a prophecy.
One is a prophecy, which is Daniel, right?
The other a revelation.
Revelation is the book of Revelation. It says it's revealing something. So in the end, when it is opened, we should be knowing what it is talking about, because it's continuing what Daniel was prophesying. Yeah.
One a book sealed, the other a book opened.
Right.
John heard the mystery which the 7 thunders uttered.
Right.
But he was commanded
not to write
them.
Yeah.
The special light given to John,
right,
which was expressed in the 7 thunders,
right.
was a delineation
of events right.
which would transpire under the first and second angels' messages.
Right. Now, we have a first and second angels' messages. This we are reading from MS 59 and 1900. If it's manuscript release, message MS, just Google MS 59 1900, a revelation of the Father and the Son in the judgment scene in heaven. So this is what we are reading from, and it was right.
It was not best for the people to know these things,
right, about the Trinity, right? All
the 3 angels,
right?
For their faith must necessarily be tested. In the order of God, most wonderful and advanced truths would be under the 3rd angel proclaimed about the Trinity, the family of God, conducting the judgment.
What are we to learn in these angels? In these messages? In these messages which were told John not to write, we are all the 3 angels for their faith must necessarily be tested. So when William Miller preached the first angel, the second, the third, and we still have 2 more, which are also termed as first, which is Sister White, second, which is the New Jerusalem, third, which is the Jesus' new name. They come to us as a test. So we had 3 angels which tested the dead, which is the first, second, third angel's message. Starting also with Sister White, which is the first seal, we still have 3 angels testing the judgment for the living, which is Sister White, the first, which is the seal God, and the second, which is New Jerusalem, and the third, which is Jesus' new name, also coming to the people to test them. So these, in the order of God, most wonderful and advanced truths would be under the third angel proclaimed about one, what do they bring to us? The Trinity. How is the Godhead? We saw there is a woman there. This is coming also to test us. This will test a lot, especially mainly the men, because they don't believe there is a woman in heaven. It was prescribed that this message was not for men, because the men actually won't compromise. Usually you can see how they were saying, woman shouldn't preach, woman, they're just worried about the woman. I don't know why they are worried about the woman, but God can use even a donkey. In the time of Balaam, he used the donkey to stop Balaam pursuing to curse Israel. He's used anything he has created. I don't know why we are so worried about who should be used, who shouldn't be used, but God himself will show who he will use in the last days. And we don't even need to debate. He will use whoever he wants to use, whether it be what or what he will use. We know from Galatians chapter 27, chapter 3 verse 27. How can we be so particular these last days? Are we being backward or still in the old dispensation? The new dispensation says, verse 27.
For as many of you as have been baptized into Christ have put on Christ.
Yeah.
There is neither Jew nor Greek.
You see?
There is neither bond nor free.
Right.
There is neither male nor female.
Right.
For ye are all in one in Christ.
As long as the woman is baptized in Christ. There are 3 people mentioned here. There is a Greek, neither Jew or Greek. So it is nullified. It has made the Greek take up the post, isn't it? And it also, there is neither bond nor free. Anyone who was bond or any slave or anything, there is the baptism of Christ makes them also qualified to be used by God. No female, no male. Any female before, as long as the woman is baptized, it can be used by God. You should understand these verses before you start uttering all these old. I'm so glad most of the people, 99% of people now understand this injunction. And it's only a few, with minds that are so narrow, that God will say, open up and loosen up and understand God can use anything. God can use anything in any period. He created people. He can use anyone. So here we are being told, when this message of the 7 thunders is uttered, it will give us to know the Trinity, the Godhead, right? And also what?
There's a question here.
Yes.
Somebody's asking about the Trinity.
Right.
I think they want you to explain.
We will do that in a separate lesson, but all I know is that the Trinity is 3 people. We have 3 persons in heaven. Actually, if you want, let's go to First John, chapter 5, I think.
Verse 7.
Yeah.
For there are 3 that bear record in heaven.
Listen to that. There are 3 bearing record in heaven. Yeah?
The Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost.
So who are those? The Father is the Father, God the Father. The Word is Christ. And who is the Holy Ghost? So it's already 3 already there. Yeah? So I believe, that's why I say I'll bring it in a separate lesson if you want to know more about the Trinity. I believe the Trinity shows what is in heaven. There is a family in heaven where we have the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. These are three bearing record in heaven. And also go to Ephesians chapter 3, verse 15. 3 verse 15.
Let's start from 14. For this cause I bow my knees unto the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ,
Right?
of whom the whole family in heaven and earth is named.
Now, so we have a family in heaven. We have a mother. We have a father. We have a son. And who else? We have the Holy Ghost. We have the Holy Spirit. So this family, we have a family. If we have a family in heaven, then we have a family on earth. On earth, what is in the family on earth? Because in Romans chapter 1, verse 20, it says, go to Romans chapter 1, verse 20.
For the invisible things of him from creation of the world
Right?
are clearly seen,
Right?
being understood by the things that are made,
Right?
even his eternal power
And Godhead. So the Godhead is manifest from what was created. What was created? Male and female. So that we have no excuse. So here we are being told, let me just browse that, and you can go to PSM TV inbox so that we can identify who wants that information and give them in its fullness, so that we don't divert from the lesson. Let's go back to the lesson. It says the seven thunders, when they are understood, they bring these most valued lessons. One, the lesson on Trinity. It says all the three angels for the faith must necessarily be tested in the order of God. Most wonderful and advanced truths would be: one, under the third angel's message, they proclaim about one, the Trinity; two, the family of God. We have seen the family of God, which is in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 15. We have a family in heaven, isn't it? God, the Son, and the Mother. So this is what is being proclaimed. And also, what is being proclaimed?
The first
Right?
and second angels' messages were to be proclaimed, but no further light, brackets, the third angel,
Right?
was to be revealed before these messages had done
Right?
their specific work.
So the first, the second angel, the third angel, the first, the second angel's messages were to be proclaimed, but no further light, or in brackets, the third angel, wants to be revealed before these messages had done their specific work. So meaning the three angels' messages should do their specific work first, for you to get on now to understand the next two last angels, to make them five. But what do they contain? They are a continuation of the seven thunders. You understand? And what else?
Announcing the judgment of the dead
Right.
and then of the living.
It is announcing the judgment of the dead, and then we finish with the judgment of the living. Yeah?
This was represented by the angel standing with one foot on the seas, proclaiming
Right?
with a most solemn oath that that time should be no longer,
Right?
that there should be no more delay,
Right?
but that when the seventh angel blew his trumpet,
Right?
then God's veiled secret
In
plan,
brackets, secret. Yeah?
mysterious through the ages,
Right?
ever since it was announced
Right?
in Genesis 3
Chapter
verse
3,
15
verse 15. Yeah?
by his servants the prophets, would be fulfilled.
Now, what is in this one is from the Living Bible, verses 6 and 7, if you have Living Bible. So it is Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, uttered a prophecy. For this prophecy is being fulfilled by the seven thunders. 3 verse 15. Yeah?
Genesis 3 verse 15.
Yeah?
And I will put enmity between thee and
Enmity.
the woman.
Right? I will put enmity. Yeah?
Between thee and the woman,
Right?
and between thy seed and her seed.
Right?
It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel.
Right. So what has been planned by God to bruise the serpent's heel is the seven thunders. Do you understand? So the voice of the seven thunders fulfill that prophecy to bruise the serpent, because these are messages coming to make sure the man is back to the state of Adam before he sinned. And here let's go to Early Writings, page 259, and start when it says the angel's position.
The angel's position.
We are studying that Revelation 10. So we want to know this angel was stepping on the sea and on the land. So this angel's position, yeah?
This angel's position, with one foot on the seas, the other on the land,
right,
signifies the wide extent of the proclamation of the message.
Right.
It will cross the broad waters,
right,
and be proclaimed in other countries.
It
even
also
to all the
crosses
world.
In many countries. This message. That's why we find a lot of people keeping the Passover on a week of unleavened bread. Go to Botswana, there are plenty. Zambia, there are plenty. Trinidad, there are plenty. Canada, there are plenty. Australia, there are plenty. South Africa, Zimbabwe, all the countries, Philippines, there are plenty. Name all the globe. They are in the feast of. That's why it is an utterance in Jeremiah chapter 8. It says, "What will people say?" Yep, 8 verse 7, verse 20. Start from verse 19. Yeah. Okay.
Behold the voice of the cry of the daughter of my people. Because
so the daughter of God's people will cry. How will they cry? Yeah.
Because of them,
right,
that dwell in a far country.
Right.
Is not the Lord in Zion?
Right.
Is not her king in her?
No. Is that Jeremiah 8?
Yeah, verse 19.
Verse 19 and verse 20.
The harvest is past.
What do they cry? They say the harvest is past. Yeah.
The summer is ended.
The summer is ended.
And we are not saved.
Why? That utterance will be done on the close of probation, when people will start realizing, like the 5 foolish virgins, they will realize now the summer is ended. Yeah? And the harvest is past. We are not saved. Why? This has been going on while we are still thinking we are okay. God is already finishing the harvest. Many people are keeping the Passover on its date, on its time. Many people are keeping this feast on as God has prescribed. Why people will utter that statement is because they did not know that it was a harvest message. It was already harvesting those who were reading and understanding Daniel and Revelation. And people will proclaim the summer is ended. We are not saved. Because there were, it's now a matter of who to listen to, like it was in the days of Noah. In Noah's time, there were preachers outside the ark, and people chose to go and listen to them instead of listening to Noah. And it's a matter of a pick and choose. If you want to listen outside anything that just makes you enjoy and get entertained and sleep, it's fine. You have a choice. But those who have Noah, they will listen to Noah. And Noah is building the ark, and we have an ark being built by Noah, and that will make sure at the end, those who were not with Noah proclaimed the harvest is past, the summer is ended. We are not saved. They'll discover that at the end, but we do not want people to discover that. That's why God has an awakening cry to awake all those to get up, trim your lights, and top on to the new additional truth, which are these 2 angels' messages. Top them up to the 3 angels' messages to make your light shine. And go back to Early Writings.
The comprehension.
Yes, and page 259, where it says the angel's position. We saw. Where are we now? The comprehension, right?
The comprehension.
Yeah.
Of the truth, the glad reception of the message,
yeah,
is presented in the eating of the little book.
Right. So the way we are enjoying these messages is the book that was opened for us to enjoy and you get that interest. Is the book which is now sweet in the mouth. Because you saw when William Miller was told, go and take up the book. Go to Revelation 10. We see William Miller told to go and take up the book. After the utterance of the seven thunders, he was told not to write. It's John now saying, told not to write. And what else? He's acting on behalf of William Miller, who was the first one to be told about the Daniel, the book which was being opened. Right? Verse 8.
Verse 8.
Uh-huh.
And the voice which I heard from heaven
Right.
spake unto me again,
Again.
and said,
Right?
Go and take the little book,
Right?
which is open in the hand of the angel,
Right?
which standeth upon the sea and upon the earth.
Right?
And I went unto the angel,
Right?
and said unto him,
Mm-hmm.
Give me the little book.
Give me the little book.
And he said unto me,
Yeah?
Take it,
Take it.
and eat it up,
Eat it up.
and it shall make thy belly better.
This one was to make the belly bitter. That's the disappointment that I said. After William Miller read this book, it was interesting. It was sweet as honey in the mouth. In the belly, it was bitter. Why? Because of the disappointment which occurred in 1844 when Christ didn't come as he had prophesied. And what?
And it shall make thy belly better,
Right?
but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey.
Sweet as honey. And that was the lovely prophecy which he enjoyed. And he made a lot of proclamation everywhere. Everybody listened and obeyed. They sold farms, they sold possessions just to be ready for the coming of Christ. It was sweet as honey. But when the death came, Christ didn't come. There was a disappointment, which even caused others who had already hearkened to the message to go into fanaticism, to start rebelling against God and what. But the timing of it was correct. 2,300 days. The event was Christ going in the Holy of Holies, not in the coming on the physical earth. So he was correct. God had already prophesied this was going to be with William Miller. It will be bitter, but sweet. But there is an injunction on the further verse, which is interesting. Yeah.
And I took the little book
Right.
out of the angel's hand,
Right?
and ate it up,
Right?
and it was in my mouth sweet as honey.
Right?
And as soon as I had eaten it, my
Right.
belly was better.
Right?
And he said unto me,
Mm-hmm.
Thou must prophesy again before many peoples
After the
and nations.
disappointment now, it was now a command. You start prophesying again. It's prophesying what? Again. Where to?
Before many people
Many people,
and nations
nations,
and tongues
and tongues.
and kings.
That's where Sister White now started the Sabbath proclamation. It was many people coming to listen to the Sabbath message. And this was an injunction. But if you see, she did not prophesy to many people because there are still some people who didn't even hear Sister White. So that hearing of many people, nations and tongue will come when the proclamation is finished by these seven thunders. Because Sister White did not finish the whole proclamation. There should be seven thunders. But now it leads us to know who read and finish early writings there.
The truth in regard to the time of the advent of the Lord
Yeah?
was a precious message to our souls in
Right.
1844.
Right? But
But this same representation was to be repeated in the time of the judgment of the living.
right. That's why I say she did not finish because she preached to those who were involved in the judgment of the dead. But there's still judgment of the living, where we also expect somebody to be preaching to those who are living, who will meet Christ without tasting death. That's where this proclamation, Sister White says, the proclamation of this message to be repeated in the time of the judgment for the living. This is in early writing, page 259. This proclamation of these messages of the seven thunders should be found in our time, because Sister White is long dead. That's why I argue and say, why should you say, when Sister White died, there's no more angel, there's no more prophets? Why do you say so? When it needed a prophet for the judgment of the dead, it also needs a prophet for the judgment of the living. Why should those who died were being proclaimed to by a prophet? What about those who were in the judgment of the living? Don't they need also a prophet? They do. Definitely they do. If they still have to proclaim these 7 thunders, which should be 7 by the time when Sister White died, they hadn't reached the 7th prophet. She will probably be, we will see when we see which one was the first. As we know that William Miller was the first angel's message, we find it is the first thunder, right? Sister White wasn't even the last 7th thunder. So if William Miller is the first thunder, if the book was opened through William Miller, instructed the book where God instructed John to close, to don't write the words that he had. So John couldn't be the first. But the first we see, who read this book of Daniel which was closed, is William Miller, being the first thunder. William Miller is the first thunder. So the next thunder was he had a thunder, he had a message. Thundering is a message. He had the first angel's message. The next one, after William Miller, we saw it's Sister White. Because we are now seeing through history that the next thunder was Sister White. She had a message. She had a message. And that message was the message of the second thunder. William Miller the first, second thunder is Sister White. And after Sister White came, we saw when we started the 430-year prophecy, we saw that you added 1500 where Martin Luther had been raised in AD 1500. You added 430 years, like it was in the type where the Israelites had to stay for 430 years as slaves in Egypt. This is what we had. And then we saw from the time they walked out of Egypt to the crucifixion of Christ, they stayed for 1500 years, which is 1500 years. So we see the 1500 years again when William Miller is being called. When Martin Luther is being called in the year AD 1500 to start also righteousness by faith, as it was in Abraham. Abraham was the first servant of righteousness by faith. The next servant of righteousness by faith is William Miller. 1500 is being called. Add 430 to 1500. And then he proclaimed fully on the Augsburg Confession, which is 1530. 1530, it was the year of the Augsburg Confession. So you add from that 1530, you find judgment of the dead will start 430 plus 1530 will start 1960. That's why we have 1960 as a landmark where judgment of the living started. We are in the judgment of the living right now. Right now, there are people who will see Christ without tasting death if they follow the messages of the 7 thunders until the last. So in 1530 we saw that. And then if you add also, you find we saw the year of 1890. 1890, we saw it in the prophets of 430. If you haven't, go back to the video which is talking about the 430 years. We saw 1888, the 80 Johns and Waggoner came to preach righteousness by faith. So that was another thunder which came. It's recorded in the 7 thunders. We saw 80 Johns and Waggoner coming to fulfill the 3rd thunder. The first thunder is William Miller. The second thunder is Sister White. The 3rd thunder is 80 Johns and Waggoner. And we are seeing this is what John had. And their messages, and we saw Sister White telling us that the thunders were all centralizing on Calvary, the sacrifice of Christ, to be sufficed by Calvary, to be established fully in person so that it serves us. And we saw that these 2 guys had been sent as a thunder, as a 3rd thunder. So we had 3 thunders already here. when A.T. Jones preached. Now we see the next thunder when we added in their disappointment in 1890, and when they were rejected, we added the 40 years of wilderness, which we saw in Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 5. We saw that the Israelites were given 390 years, to lie on the left side, 40 years to lie on the right side. So the 390 years we saw by adding 390 plus 1500 to get to 1890, the rejection of the message by A.T. Jones and Waggoner. Then, but he was to lie also on 40 days on the right side, which is the wilderness journey of antitype of the wilderness which was spent by the Israelites in the wilderness. It's 40 years of unbelief, because after rejecting 1888, there was 40 years no message, nothing new in us, nothing. But in 1930 we saw V.T. Wotef being raised as the angel coming from the east in Revelation chapter 7 with the seal. The next seal after Sister White was New Jerusalem, which is coming from the east. In Revelation 7, that's the only angel. We say there is the angel, we say, hold, till we have sealed the seventh on the void. It was coming from the east. Sister White's message, which was hovering, which was in the midst of the air, it was in Revelation chapter 14, verse 6. This angel, from the first angel, William Miller, it was in the mid-air. And up to Sister White in verse 9, it is in mid-air. But this angel coming from the east, V.T. Wotef, which is the fourth thunder. Fourth thunder is V.T. Wotef. And then after V.T. Wotef, we saw that after 1930, the next year, which we saw up to 430 years, we saw in 1955, we had this guy called Ben Roden who gave us the branch message. The branch message is Benjamin Roden, who gave the branch message as a fifth thunder. And then in 1977 we find his wife, who also proclaimed the branch she, or the feminine gender in the Holy Spirit, in the Godhead, which is branch she. 1977, it was the sixth thunder. Now then, we have 6 thunders there, from William Miller to Sister Roden, right? There are 6 thunders. Now the next thunder is the 7th, which is Elijah the prophet. When Elijah comes, which is Malachi chapter 4, verse 4 to 5, it says, remember ye the law of Moses, which I gave unto Horeb, with the statutes and judgments. Behold, I'll send my servant Elijah before the great and dreadful day of the Lord. So we are expecting, when he says 475, testimony to ministers, 475. Yeah.
Prophecy must be fulfilled.
Right.
The Lord says, behold,
right,
I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Right, right. Somebody is
to come.
Now we are being told by Sister White, there's somebody coming to fulfill the Elijah message, which is going to be the 7th thunder. And when these 7 thunders have uttered, and we have hearkened to these messages, all 7, then this is what Sister White is talking about, that they are centralizing on Calvary. And we are ready to be saved. We are on the last thunder. Some have even gone without knowing there is anything. From William Miller, Sister White, that was with only 2 thunders. But we need them to be 7 thunders. So for them to be 7, then we have to be saved. So we are expecting at the last time a 7th person preaching the statutes, which are the feasts, and the judgments. So we welcome the idea that we will keep these feasts because it's hearkening to the 7th thunder. We will keep we were told this message, here's Calvary, is teaching about the family in heaven, is teaching about our righteousness. The new name of Christ is completing the sealing process. And this is what we should be studying about the 7 thunders. And when we learn and fortify ourselves to all these messages, 7 in number, not only to William Miller and Sister White, but William Miller, Sister White, A.T. John's message, which is Righteousness by Faith, and we have also V.T. Hotef, which will give us the sealing of the 144,000 coming from the east, the seal New Jerusalem. And also we have Brother Ben Roden preaching about the new name of Christ, the branch he, or the male gender. And then we have the female gender, which is in 1977 by Sister Lois, who also exposed that in the family there is a woman. And then we have our last thunder, Elijah's message. Elijah's message is on the statutes and judgments, and filling all these messages so that we have all of them and we are ready for this coming of Christ. May God bless the lesson. And also, if you want more exposition, the BSM TV has got an inbox. It's full. Put your question. We will arrange a lesson. And as it is now, we had a lesson, we had a request while it was during the lesson of the Holy Spirit, of the Trinity, of everything. So we will respond accordingly and bring these messages to fulfill that one soul. We can go miles for only one person who wants to understand. We will do everything. Not only that the answer comes from us, the answer comes from everyone, but we are sharing and enjoying these messages. And don't forget to go to the sealing message at gmail.com. That will also help you when you want to bring your questions. We will answer you. We will prepare lessons. We will go that mile. We got that time before the coming of the establishment of the kingdom. May God bless the morning.